As of late, I've been spending a lot of time complaining on this channel, so let's change gears and talk about one of the greatest films ever, Fiddler on the Roof. The musical numbers are on point, the cinematography makes great use of fades and camera directions, and the props and sets are shockingly period accurate. As if all of that isn't enough, the story itself has a lot to say about family, religion, prejudice, and traditions. It's this last topic that fascinates me the most. If you're like my friends, you may have at one point thought that the musical is very pro-tradition because you only knew the opening number. And to be fair, if you go off the song alone, that does seem like a fair assessment, but really, it's all set up for one of the biggest points of conflict in the show. Many of the problems in the musical can be categorized as tradition versus blank. Traditionally, you need a matchmaker to choose your future spouse. Traditionally, co-ed dancing isn't allowed. Traditionally, you marry within your religion, etc., and so forth. It comes up all of the time, but what it has to say about tradition through the conflicts is the best part. Fiddler on the Roof makes a case for why people hold on to those "that's the way we've always done it." The people of NotAVampyre use their ways to keep their ever-shaky lives steady. They provide a comfort and certainty when everything else is chaos, i.e. watching your fellow Jews be evicted from their homes for their religion. They can give you something to look forward to while you suffer, like spending Sabbath with your family. As the film tries to show, traditions aren't inherently bad. Oftentimes, old ways arose from seeking to solve particular needs or problems. The matchmaking system actually worked for Tevye and Golda. They often act like they hate each other, but there isn't venom to their words. Things said in anger aren't meant to hurt, and the other will often take it in stride.
Quiet, woman, before I get angry, because when I get angry, even flies don't dare to fly!
I'm very frightened of you. After we finish supper, I'll faint.
The two can disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, there is love between them. Even though neither thought on it until Hoddle's engagement, as love was not a consideration for marriage, it has been there the whole film. They did end up learning to love each other. This actually makes me think about my own traditions. Even though it's quite materialistic here in the US, I love the December holidays, especially Christmas. Not because I'm especially spiritual, but because it's a yearly reminder to be kind and generous. It causes us to think about others and makes me at least remember the good in the world. Life seems jollier. But Fiddler on the Roof criticizes holding to traditions as well and demonstrates that they can be flawed too. For instance, though matchmaking worked for Tevye and Golda, it isn't perfect for all. For a long time, marriage was seen as a political, socio-economic move, and that's how they were both taught to see it. To them, the best for their children is landing them husbands who are well off and will take care of them, and anything else is a failure. It's shown to be particularly harsh on poor women, as the song points out.
With no dowry, no money, no family background, be glad you got a man.
The system also fails in the affection category. Though it was shown that Model was a good personal match for Saito, he was never considered because he had nothing materially to offer their daughter. Laser Wolf was the first choice. Even though Saito didn't care for him romantically, he fit the only requirements Golda and Tevye had. But as Tevye found, this traditional way of viewing marriage was conflicting with his values, particularly his desire to see that his daughter is happy. And as he decided, a tradition worth holding to would not create this dilemma. Now, of course, he didn't outright abandon the perceived need for a matchmaker. What he did was opt to bend the rules when it seemed reasonable. And we see this play out so many times thereafter. There's no harm in dancing with Gentiles. There's nothing in the good book about dancing with his wife at a wedding. Is it that bad not to get permission to wed when it's clear that they're in love and you like your daughter's intended? Even the thing that Tevye would not allow his daughter marrying outside the faith, he bends on towards the end. It's not full-out acceptance, but he does not deny Hava's existence anymore by the time they leave NotAVampyre. Fiddler on the Roof wants us to think about traditions. Why are things done this way, and is it actually the best way? Why are they in place? What are their shortcomings? Hell, Tevye even goes as far as to question God sometimes and why he lets certain things happen, like the little demonstration. He still shows reverence to God when he does it and recognizes that he might not have the perspective to understand, but he still asks. One of my favorite lines about this is,
"Our old ways were once new, were they?"
It's explicit recognition that new isn't inherently bad. Sure, there is a right concern about blindly following fads, but that's why you think them through like you should with traditions. Figure out their purpose and determine if they actually serve it. The world has changed a lot since the early 1900s, and it's going to keep changing. As Fiddler on the Roof shows, while there is value and comfort in the old, we must not be closed off from the new, especially if the old conflicts with our core values. One is not inherently better, and so we need to take it on individually. Turning our brains off in either direction is a fail state. This all has framed how I think about traditions in general. I, like many of you, grew up in a household where things operated like a basic logic command. If this, then that. If birthday, then everyone gets together for cake and sings happy birthday. But I've gotten away from a lot of the that's what you do things. Not entirely because of this film, but because of the mindset that nothing is beyond critical thought. This is why I can give the middle finger to Columbus Day. I'm divorced from valuing it based on history, so the truth of the man it honors is not cloudy. I've also made some more personal decisions based on thinking critically about traditions. Much of my family isn't that great, so I've stopped holding myself to many of the get-together traditions that I used to have to partake in. Some of them are bad for my health. I'm having to see them because that's just what you do is not a compelling reason. I don't actually have to, and I really don't want to either. It's more harmful than any benefits it can offer, and once I admitted that to myself, it seemed pretty obvious that I should just not. However, around the holidays, I do seek out the old friends and family members who aren't terrible. That's part of why I think holidays are valuable. Not only can they give you time off work or school, but they are natural reminders to spend time with those who don't suck. Think of what you have and cherish it. Even when I was agnostic, Christmas was always a special time for me because of this. Thanksgiving is a day that I value because it makes me reflect on my blessings. These are things that should be done year-round, but it's so easy to get caught up in daily life that we often don't watch where we're going until we realize we're somewhere else. Holiday traditions can be like setting a reminder in your phone. Instead of telling you to get groceries, it's a prompt for you to consider your life from an outside perspective, if just for one day. There is so much that I can and will talk about at a later date regarding this movie. There's what I listed before, the different dynamics of each romantic couple, the character of the constable. It's so hard to know what to do next. I can only try to put into words how glad I am that this film and show exists. Thank you very much for consuming this video. If you want to talk to me about just about anything, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at NotAVampyre. Thank you very much again, and screw Columbus Day.